everybody. Danielle Egnew here. Welcome to inPsight Radio, where you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. I hope your week has been absolutely amazing. I have had quite a week. Good heavens, I was in Ojai, California for an incredible spirit workshop, which was fantastic. And I was one of the facilitators there and mostly just took place and got a chance to do some really cool spirit work. And then I also read for participants that were there. So I got a chance to talk about what was going on in our feminine time frame, in addition to being able to read for individuals. And that was just super cool. I mean, what don't you love about Ojai? And it was just a wonderful healing time of 25 women coming together for this retreat. It was really powerful. It was fantastic. And it was headed up by my dear friend, Dr. Jennifer Freed, who is not only one of the founders of AHA, and AHA is a tremendous, incredible, it's this nonprofit down in Santa Barbara, and they work with youth and they help kids understand who they are. So as they move into our new world, they have all sorts of emotional, spiritual, and psychological tools to succeed, which is really, really cool. So Jennifer was there and there were other wonderful presenters that were there. And then in addition to that, I turned right around and my wife and I went to Austin, Texas, which was just a trippy bunch of fun because they were having this incredible, I keep saying incredible today, but it's true, this incredible motorcycle rally down there. And of course, Austin is all about great barbecue and really tremendous music. So the last 2 weeks have been just, wow, they've been packed and they've been full of incredible time. And there's the word incredible. Incredible. This is an incredible broadcast today. Okay, I think I've used that word to death for the next year, actually. Yet it really has been a phenomenal time frame for transformation. So, wow, I'm hoping that your last week has been full of transformation, full of fun, full of all kinds of really powerful realizations. And today's show is all about angelic messages for this week. And there's a lot going on in the news. You know, we just had the G7 summit. And of course, we as the United States did not really come out all that favorably in the G7 summit because our president got there late. He left early. He's meeting with Kim Jong-un, about this, whatever he's doing in North Korea. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And these angels made it very, very clear to me last week that rather than covering a topic, I was going to be covering messages that they wanted to bring through. So that's exactly what I'm doing today. So we're getting a live angelic channeling session here on the radio right now. And what I want to start out with, and when I say do you love that? When I'm being guided and told, basically, I'm really literally the chick who reads the teleprompter with all this gang. I am. So what we're starting out with is a big, giant shift in what we are being perceived. Well, what we perceive as power, okay? What these angels are talking about is a huge shift in power that's coming. And this shift in power, it's not like our government's going to fall apart and the president's going to disappear into another dimension and Congress is going to go away. It's about how we perceive ourselves as beings of influence and power, especially here in the United States, but all over the world, This angel who walks with the world, and there is an angel that walks with the world. I'm not exactly sure what the administrative duties of that angel are, except for, the whole world. So that's a lot to chew off. The angel who walks with the world says, for the empowerment within, this is the indigenous nature. For the empowerment within, this is the indigenous nature. Well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that we have a tremendous sense of power, of presence, of purpose within ourselves as human beings. And many of us, culturally, across the world, have assigned away our idea of personal power, if you will, because we have been convinced that there is someone who is smarter than we are, tougher than we are, more successful than we are, has a lot more letters after their name than we do, and that person is likely more competent to handle these things in the world than we are. So what this angel is saying is that this is indigenous to us, this power. What we're literally being told is that there is a lamp that is lighting within each one of us during this time frame. And that lamp holds tremendous amounts of strength, courage, and direction. I mean, think about headlights on a car. They face forward, not backwards, not sideways. They face forward. So we're all being asked right now to face our light forward. There is such a fear, gang, and I'm seeing this fear all over Twitter. I had a wonderful Twitter follower who direct mailed me through Twitter, which is the weirdest thing, right? Because Twitter is 140 characters or whatever it is now, 240 or I don't even know. And this individual had reached out to me and said, what do we do about this time frame? I mean, it's all fine and dandy to project this or that or the other thing. Yet, what do we do besides report on the bad news? I mean, how do we handle this? And I thought, wow, you are amongst the hundreds of people that reach out to me every week to say, what do we do? We feel like the wheels are coming off the cart. Big corporations are running America. How do we deal with all of this? And here comes this angel who walks with the world saying that this power is indigenous and innate to all of us. So what the heck are these angels talking about? Here comes this angel again. And this angel says, for this, the mind, which entwines itself with that which does not serve it, this, the mind, is released, giving way for the knowledge of the Spirit. And what that means, straight up, if you speak angel all day, which I often do, what that means is we head trip ourselves so badly by assigning away all of this power that is given to us within our cell structure to bring change. We do this so often that we forget. We're so busy going through the mental gymnastics of how I'm not enough, I could never do anything, I don't have my PhD, I'm not the president, what difference can I make? Living in Billings, Montana. We let the mind twist us up so much that we forget that the knowledge and the power of the Spirit, which is energetics, we're talking metaphysics, really is what weaves our universe together. Our universe is not woven together by intellectualized ideals. Even money is an energy. Well, yeah, we've got little pieces of paper with dead presidents, typed onto them and whatnot. Yet the idea of money is an energy, literally an energy. So when we sit here and say, well, what can I do to change the world? And it doesn't seem like anything's happening with this Mueller investigation. And it doesn't seem like anyone wants to take action and lawfulness to deal with all the meddling in government that's happened. No one wants to deal with anything. That is the perception of the mind. Yet let's talk energies. This angel's saying, don't trip on this. Don't head trip on the headlines, people. Let's look at the energies that are happening right now. We have innate, incredible abilities to design our reality. That's the truth. We have miracle capabilities within our cell structure. That's what lives inside of our DNA. That DNA is so fragile it can't even come out of our cell and touch the flesh in the outside realm of the cells. That DNA is so fragile vibrationally, it has to stay in the nucleus or it's destroyed. It can't even touch the flesh it walks around in. That is the power of the higher vibration of the knowledge inside the body. So what is this angel saying? This angel is saying, people, let's not trip on our shoelaces because of some ridiculous headline or some Twitter picture of Angela Merkel leaning over the top of, oh God, poor President Trump. He looks like a 5-year-old with his arms all crossed and his face is all pouty and he looks scared to death at that G7 summit, just scared and out of his wheelhouse. And he can't bluff all those world leaders. He can't buffoon them. He knows that they have his number and there he sat. So do we look at that picture and say, oh my God, in the United States, we're doomed. We're not going to be part of G7. Nothing's going to happen. He's going to go meet with Kim Jong-un and we're all going to get blown up. Gang, our well-being in this world is not relying on one or two people that run these countries. Our well-being is relying on what we bring forward energetically. So we're going to talk about how to actually do that, because we get lost in the cracks of headlines and in the cracks of fears that we are passed along to us every day. What we forget is, again, going back to money, this is on an energy web. We have woven an energy web with each other. And this freaks out a lot of people of polarizing beliefs. There's a lot of folks out there who don't want to hear that. There are white supremacists that do not want to hear that they are part of a web or part of a weave with an African American person or an African person. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they are part of the problem. They don't want to hear that they are part of the solution. They prefer to actually believe that they are on the other end of life. And there are people out there too, on the other end of the spectrum, that are really working for human rights. They don't want to believe that they are part of the same web as that very frightening racist person. They don't want to believe that. Because how could that be true? How could that ever be true? Well, it's true because these angels are telling us that the power within the spirit connects everything. And that we head trip and we literally keep ourselves occupied in an illusion that is so heavy that we don't choose to learn past the illusion in the brain. I mean, we're literally existing on one plane that is not anywhere near what our capability is because we're too focused on the physical. So if you think about money, and I know I'm getting a little out there today, but I'm trying to follow these angels. They've got a big message for us today about how we can literally change the world. This is what this whole talk is about, changing the world. So when we think about changing the world, we think about changing the energies within the self. And we change what our mind focuses on. This is really important. It's very important to change what our mind focuses on. Because if we don't choose to do that, we are continuing to funnel fear energy into this web that we are part of. And that's the quantum field, gang. The quantum field responds to our thoughts. The quantum field responds to our dreams, to our daydreams, to our ponderances, to our paranoias. That quantum field that's around us at all times is always responding to that. Period. It doesn't matter. It's always responding to that. So what these angels are talking about is, rather than looking at someone else to save us with some external supposed system that's going to save us all, we look within. And what does that mean? Well, it means, gang, that we direct the energies of our world the way we want them directed. This angel who walks with the world comes around again. Here's this giant angel just standing here that says, that which is all nations, all possibility, that which is all imagination, all dream, that which is all heart exists. And that means the gross stuff too, gang. That's not just the happy unicorns. That means anything you can dream that's terrifying and authoritarian and creepy and oppressive, that exists too. So if we are all living in this web where every single thing is possible at all times, then what does that mean? Well, it means that we are responsible for generating the feeling tone of that quantum field and of that web. And again, we're going to go back to money. I was recently at a Ren fair because those are fun. And come on, cosplay, if you're a grown-up, that rocks. That's fun stuff. I was at this Ren fair because one of my dearest long-term friends was getting married. And I was actually presiding over the ceremony. So I got to drag out my Reverend book, and I love that stuff. I love weddings. I'm such a cheeseball. And I get up there, and I'm just going for it. And they have the queen of the event and the king of this Ren fair, and it's part of this big royal wedding, and there's all of these people in costume, and I'm actually wearing a costume that included, but was not limited to, a corset and a poofy sleeved shirt and a handmade chainmail bikini top over the top of all that my very dear friend Todd Kintz made by hand. He actually makes chainmail because my friends are super cool, and we all dork out together. And I'm in the middle of this incredible wedding ceremony. And when we got done, we had this opportunity to go shopping with some of the vendors. Now, I was actually trying to not spend $1 million at the Ren Fair because, good God, if you've never been to one, there's a really great one here. They throw it in Zoo, Montana here in Billings. And there are people from all over the country that come and they make costumes and they make armor and they make really good food. And two of my dear friends were there as jewelry makers. I mean, just phenomenal jewelries that they were presenting that day. And I had a feeling they were going to be there. So I deliberately did not bring a lot of cash. So I couldn't cash pour myself like crazy because my friends are super talented. And my one friend, Lori Blaylock, if you find her online, holy moly, is her stuff beautiful. My wife wanders over to Lori's tent. And I said to Rebecca, my wife, I do have a secret digital credit card in my iPhone. So if you really go crazy over something, I've got some secret cash there. Well, she wasn't over at Lori's booth 10 seconds and she found some really great earrings that she loved. So of course, she's like, hey, do you have the secret credit card? Well, sure. What I had was my PayPal account. Okay. And I've got my iPhone and there's Lori standing there. And I said, girl, do you have a PayPal, account? And yes, she did. And so I sent her money standing right there via PayPal and it showed up on her phone and she got the money. So then I go next door to my dear friend Keela Prophet, and Keela makes incredible wrapped jewelry with, oh my God, she's great too. You can find her online, Keela Prophet. So I look her up and I'm going nuts over some stuff she has. And she again pulls out her phone. And it turns out that there's this way you can transfer funds with PayPal where you just scan the other person's QR code on their phone and bingo, that money's there immediately to them. I mean, so what is this point about? The Ren Fair? The weird bra I was wearing? No. The point is that money is now literally an energy. Literally. It's not even a figurative thing. Back in the 70s, they'd say, oh, the energy of money. It's literally an energy. I sent two of my good friends some clamshells there through the ethers on an iPhone. Okay? So when we talk about, well, how do I change the world? I don't understand what's going on. What are my innate gifts and talents? Gang, we must start with the fact that now we have decided on the earth that we are okay to have a currency that is just traded virtually. So think about what is possible with our actions. If the system that we're actually all relying on, money, is now energy. Okay, it always was, but now it's actually energy. What is possible if we put as much belief and as much investment in our own actions as I would making a PayPal transfer of $40 to my dear friend for some cool jewelry? What if we believed in our energy transfers from one to another as solidly as we believe in a PayPal transaction? That's what these angels are talking about, is coming out of our brains, stopping thinking about ourselves as strictly a physical being, which we are physical. And it's really important that we don't throw the old body under the bus, because being a 3D person is very important. I know. We love to talk 5D. We love to talk 7D. We love to talk all Ds except for 3D because it's so boring if you're a person. Yet it's not boring, because this three-dimensional environment that we're in is a learning stage for what we are capable of if we only align with our energies. So that huge long story was to punctuate the point that the angelic realm is stressing this week to work with our energies to bring positive alignment in change. Now, it's really important when we talk about this that for somebody wired like me, that change looks like the following. That change looks like a world where everybody is getting along, where we can have different versions of God and nobody cares, where if you have two consenting adults, those consenting adults can marry one another and it's fine, where we do not see color, where we do not see gender, we just see beautiful humanity and its potential. And we co-create with one another. And that even goes into moving into co-creating with green energies. That world, in my mind, does not include demonizing people because they don't believe what I believe. It means being able to have civilized conversations. And if we can't arrive at a space where we agree, we can at least arrive to the space where we both respect each other and can at least be kind enough to one another to give each other a wide enough berth to live your life. Okay? Heck, in my realm, we don't even need all that much money. We can have money. That's great. We can also change services. We can exchange services. We can trade. We can do all kinds of things. And we can live off of that green energy and that Tesla energy that comes from the crevices of all dark matter. We can live in that realm. And we can spend our time creating beautiful things together rather than fighting over the ridiculous idea that our resources are limited. Some of them are right now. Our clean water is going to be limited. There's a couple of those we're going to have to really hustle up on, but that's because we limited it by pouring chemicals into it and just being gross about how we handled our planet. So when we think about how do we handle change, that's my idea of change. Now, you must remember, gang, there are folks out there whose idea of change is literally rounding up all the gay people and killing them off because those people truly believe that I am full of the devil and that I'm a pervert and that I've got a birth defect that probably should have never come through anyway and is probably the dealings of the devil, or maybe my mother was dealing with the devil, so I came out. There are people whose idea of the perfect world would be slavery being reinstituted and a white supremacist power structure where people who are lesser than were banished outside the walls and only people who believed just like they did were allotted resources. That is the perfect world for some people. Being able to kill whoever you want. And because you are of the particular caste that you are socially, the law never finds you. That is a perfect world for some people. And it blows my mind. And let me tell you something personal here that I don't talk about a lot. Because I'm being asked to from the angel who walks with the world. So here we go. Jeez, you guys, come on. Give a girl a break. When I feel into the populations of the world, there are many people that are so full of fear that fear has pancaked over to entitlement, and then it's rolled over again into rage, and it's rolled over again into a holy mission. So if you think about how that's just folded over and folded over and folded over, guess what else is folded over and folded over and folded over? A samurai sword. And it's really strong and it's really sharp. So these people have been folding over their pain and their fear and their discontent for generations and sharpening the edge of that with echo chambers of people who hold the same worldview. And so we do have people who have literally, if for lack of a better way to put it, armed themselves with the energy of what they consider righteousness, and they are warring against ideologies that do not fit their idea of a perfect world. Okay? So then we have folks like myself who don't necessarily subscribe to the idea of having to war with one another to push my idea of the world or your idea of the world. And for people who are wired under the auspice of love, that seems really weird. That anybody would war to try to forge a world in their image. That's fear. So these angels this week are talking all about how do we get out of our head? How do we get out of our fear? Well, one of the biggest opportunities we have here is to see that the entire world, no matter who feels what, no matter who acts like what, we are all connected in this same energy web. So as the warriors pull to create this, world in their own image, that pulls on the web. And literally what pulls towards them is love. Because imagine being tied to somebody. And if somebody's mad and they yank you over, well, you're going to hit them. You're going to run right into them. So as all of this rage is rearing its head in the world, it is pulling towards it the love that is also attached out there. And that doesn't mean that we have to be martyrs and fall on people's crazy swords, gang. I'm not saying that needs to happen. What these angels are saying, and here comes the angel who walks with the world again, wanting me to talk more about when I feel these people And I feel their agendas, and they very much have agendas to take over the world. I don't think it's any shock that the ACLU has brought forward, as has other organizations, if you're not an ACLU fan, they've brought forward awarenesses that there are folks out there literally giving birth to kids and telling them that God wants to put them there to get rid of the dark-skinned people and the gays, and they need to go be school board members, and they need to be judges and lawyers and run companies and be senators and state senators and infiltrate on every level to control this world for righteousness. Well, I can tell you that's not really going to happen, because as we push so hard, we pull towards us the opposite effect. So if there's anybody out there who feels that they really can't stand this president, okay, and I know there's a lot of people who can't, he's certainly not my favorite, yet I'm seeing the bigger picture of why he's there and what's going to happen with him, which is really sad stuff. So I'm like, he's going to be a blip on our timeline when it's all said and done. Yet if you're somebody who Donald Trump just ruined your life, first of all, why are you letting that happen? It's one person. We have the power in this country. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Yet, if you are that person and literally Trump is just ruining your world, remember that as his form of what the world looks like in his mirror, in his lens, as he pulls on the rest of us, love goes towards him, because we were all part of the same quantum web. So what we create here is an inability for one system to ever be the ruling system. That's just not the way it's going to go. The way it is going to go is we're going to have an opportunity to develop civil dialogue. And if somebody wants to choose, in my opinion, to be a complete a-hole and hate half the people on the earth, well, hey, knock yourself out, man. I can't save you from your old a-holeism. That's up to you. Yet what we can do, and what these angels are talking about, is stop falling into the crevices of the mind and convincing ourselves that what is happening in the news is really happening, because it's not. Think about the money transfer that was energetic, okay? We have the ability to transfer empowerment, love, concrete ideas, support, enrichment. We have the ability, just as we would be putting two iPhones together to transfer money that we see as very legitimate, we have the ability to transfer love in action. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, when I receive these hundreds of requests, and I'm not kidding you, gang, hundreds of them. After the election, there were thousands of them, but hundreds of them, with people saying, how do we actually stop this horrible consumerist oligarchy from eating America? How do we stop that? Or eating the world? The same thing's happening with Brexit over there. How do we stop it? Well, I suppose one way, of course, is to elect people that you feel mirrors your values, yet keep in mind that your values may be the battle cry for someone else. Okay, so are you seeing what these angels are getting at? If we continue to go from side to side, pendulum to swing forward and backwards and left and right, especially the left and right deep swings, whenever one side takes over, it's the battle cry for the other side. This angel who walks with the world is present here saying all modalities are the fulcrum of learning. And what that means, if you speak angel, is until we allow that pendulum to just rest right in the middle. It doesn't mean you can't be super passionate about what you're passionate about. It means be passionate without condemnation. Be passionate without condemnation. This is the way of the original world, or the new world, says this angel. Now that's hard, because we've been taught that to condemn another makes us righteous, right? Come on. I know none of us want to admit that, but it's true. It's a true thing. It's a thing. So if we stop condemning others just to solidify our platform of righteousness in our own purpose, the world changes. The world changes. And you will be surprised if you speak to someone about bringing their purpose and their cause forward without condemnation. Watch the defensiveness fly. Just watch it fly. Because if we can't bring down the hammer, we feel like we are not being heard. That is the old world. Yet we can bring our cause and our purpose forward through energies of action, which I'm going to get to in a second, according to this angel, whatever they're going to point me out to, but that's what they're telling me. We can get there by bringing forward actions in this world that change the outcome. I don't have to condemn someone who does not hold my beliefs. Okay, I don't need to stand in front of an anti-gay, anti-ethnicity oriented, super duper angry, whatever they are. They could be an evangelical Christian. They could be a devout Muslim. Whatever this person is, I don't have to stand in front of them and tell them why what they believe is wrong, because they're not going to hear that. I get the chance to stand in front of that person and tell them about the opportunity that we have to come together as a world if we all weigh in with our gifts and talents. I can't make that person let go of their hatred or their racism. And I'm not so sure that really serious racism isn't some sort of mental disorder, actually. I'm not kidding. That ability to truly believe that you are superior to other beings, that to me sounds a lot like schizophrenic behavior. So I'm not so sure that racism, real true racism, doesn't fall into something that we really just have not explored from a psychological perspective outside of, wow, that person's a real a-hole, weird. Or, wow, that person's really righteous and they really got it together if you're a white supremacist. Obviously, I'm not. So it just sounds farcical for that stuff to even come out of my mouth to present the perspective of someone who would be racist. Yet that's what I'm being asked to do because it's reality, because everybody doesn't share my lens. I would give my lens away. I have a happy lens. It talks to angels. It gets to see perspectives in different timelines. Honest to God, if I could give away my lens to the people who are afraid the most, I would give it away. Because if those people could understand that this world is far greater than the fear bucket they've made up in their head, they would stop acting like that. Fear makes us, nobody makes us do anything. We do things because we choose it, says the angel who walks with the world. I was getting corrected there. I was going to say fear makes us do some crazy stuff. And the fact of the matter is we do crazy things as fear becomes the tyrant and as fear becomes the master. So these angels are talking right now about how we bring change into the world this week. We're going to see some weirdo headlines, apparently. And they have to do with world leadership, and especially in the United States, world leadership reflecting on our leadership here. It's going to get a little weird. Yet if what we're doing is just sitting here waiting for a president who Trump never wanted to be president. He never wanted this job. If we're waiting for a guy who didn't even ever want this job to step up and be the righteous leader, that's not going to happen. He's not even going to be the righteous leader for the people who truly believe in him because he doesn't want that kind of pressure. Good Lord. Donald Trump is the king of delegation. He's a CEO. That's what they do. So he's just doing what he does. And all these folks are hanging their fears and their hopes on this guy. And I can't help but feel just a little sorry for him because there's no way he can even begin to be the person that people are projecting him to be. Now, I'm talking about his supporters, okay? There are people who truly believe that Donald Trump is here to deliver America. And I look at that and I think, oh my God, not only are they going to be super disappointed, but there's old Donald Trump over there going, geez, what are you talking about? I'm a New Yorker who wants to get back to my real estate empire and get out of the way of this Mueller probe. I just want to get out of here. I don't like this job. He doesn't like this job, which is why he spends all his time on Twitter. He doesn't want to be there. So when we think, how do I affect and change the world? Condemning the president and condemning who he is, it's going to pull on the web. So if you're out there bringing in condemnation, it's going to bring love to you. Love always responds when the web is tugged upon. I mean, just look at how humans rally when there's a humongous disaster someplace. We all rally. We come together. We come together. So the angel who walks with the world is saying that which cannot be determined. This is the necessary portion of your growth. Think about that. That which cannot be determined is the necessary portion of your growth. And what is this angel talking about? This angel is talking about the fact that we are never going to understand the perspectives of another person who has a completely different world lens than we do. We're never going to get it. I mean, I will never understand how a person can truly look at someone with a different skin color and believe they are superior to them. Like I can't even fantasize in my wildest, weirdest dreams of how that would even work. I can't go there. And there are going to be people in the world that no matter how hard they try, are never ever going to understand that being married to a woman as a woman isn't the most disgusting, horrible, unnatural, thwarting God action. They can't even begin to get their brain around the fact that working as a psychic and dealing with all these realms of spirituality is not demonic. There's no way they can even begin to see my perspective. This angel is saying, give up trying to convert everybody. Give it up. It's not about conversion. It's about co-creation. So think about this. If the world is not going to cave in and we're moving away from victimization, because victimization is an energy that suppresses, we're moving away from suppression energies. If I'm the person who's the racist who believes that everybody should be suppressed but me, I am pulling to me. What happens when we pull on the web? Love responds. Love responds. Because the pendulum, all right, the pendulum going right and left is trying to settle in the middle. And it doesn't mean you can't, again, it doesn't mean you can't have your convictions. It means we can have our convictions without condemnations. I mean, think about how paranoid a racist person truly is. That's a terribly frightened person. People who are serious homophobes are extremely afraid. Usually they're just really afraid that their inner gay is going to come out and, get all over the cabinets. I don't know. But there's literally a lot of hangups there for people that are really intense. So this angel who walks with the world is saying the illustration of the greatest co-creation of the one that is all and all matter resides in your hands. Wow. I have to let that sink for just a second. That's big. What that angel just basically said is the connection between everything that we see, our forests and who's going to care for those forests, our cities and who's going to build those, what direction the world goes, our connection between all of that and God and the God consciousness exists in how we choose to behave. There you go. So what does that mean? Does that mean that, our angry racist dictators part of that God consciousness? Clearly. Yet what that also means is those angry, raging racist dictators are part of the God consciousness, which means that therein lies the love. So how do we activate the love? How do we do it? Well, here's some bullet points for you coming from, this is a life path angel, and the life path angel is far more bullet pointy than our more esoteric angel friend who was just here. And this angel's talking about, again, we're going back to money. If we want to change the world right now is run through an invisible energy called money. That's what's dictating everything, is the money. Which senators vote what in America? The money. Not all of them. There's some really, really good people in government, gang. And it's really important that we remember that. Really good people are in government. Heck, I ran for mayor, okay? If I could run for a mayor of a town, there's a lot of good people out there doing things for the right reasons. So this isn't saying that everyone in government is getting paid off. There are many people who are. Many people who are. So if we wish to change the flow of the energy in our nation or in our world, we change the flow of the money. This is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where it just gets a little unfun to listen to, okay? We change the money. We change where we spend the money. Not once in a while. We change it entirely. And then they will combat that with trying to make it impossible to not spend the money with them. And then we change it again. We love to rail against oil. Oil companies, they're evil, blah, blah, blah. I will say this. I'll be the first person to say this. I drive a Jeep Cherokee. Okay. I bought it in 2000 I leased it in 2015. It's actually a 2016, yet it's a Jeep Cherokee, and it gets about 17 miles to the gallon on the freeway. Maybe a little more than that, maybe 25, depending on how fast I'm going or slow. The point I'm making is I drive a car. So if I'm going to rail against the oil companies, then either I need to not drive that car as often, which I try not to. I ride my bike a lot, or not at all. Now, we can spend our money in different ways. If we researched the products that we buy and we researched who owns those products and who owns the companies and who invests in those products, if they're doing things in the world that are creating an energy that we don't like, don't buy the product. Don't buy it. Because the energy of money runs the world right now. That is what the driving force is. That's where the control is coming in, is this group of people who are trying to own all this energy. And they can't. The energy of money is free flowing. They can't own all this energy. They just can't. What that means is we do, and especially in America, we've got to pay attention to our purchases, and we don't like that. We want to go to Walmart where we can get a cheaper tank top for $3. We don't want to look at where that came from. We want the Air Jordans, and we sit here and rail, the collective we sit here and rail against, the Chinese trading and why they're really just dinking over the USA and blah, blah, blah. Except for, what was the statistic I saw? It was ridiculous. Like over 40% of China's exports, almost half of their exports come to America. So we're buying a ton of stuff that they manufacture over there. From, mugs to, it is astronomical what we buy. Now, I'm not saying the Chinese are the problem. I'm saying if you don't like the way things are going in America, research the American companies about where they're spending their money and don't spend your money there. But we don't want to do that, do we? We want somebody else to fix it. We want somebody else to show up. We want another senator to come in there. We want somebody to just start it all over again and shove the pendulum up in our lens view, in our perspective, and we want to start the whole thing rocking back and forth. Except for the angel who walks with the world said this is the time frame where the pendulum is to settle in the middle. And in order for that to happen, it demands more stewardship of all of us. I am just as guilty as the rest of you. There are so many things that if I probably really looked at where they came from when I was purchasing, I probably would freak out. Yet this money energy that I put towards that recycles itself into oppressiveness in its own way. Now, if I'm going to drive my car, which I'm going to do, then I'm going to do other things that offset that in my life. My wife and I have a vegetable garden. Now, we don't this year because we're in the middle of moving, which, bleh, that's so much fun. That's a whole nother story. Yet we have a vegetable garden. And our garden, because my wife is a phenomenal gardener, our garden yields like you would not believe. It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. We have tomatoes on tomatoes on tomatoes and massive, huge bundles of kale. And Montana's got some pretty dry, hot summers. So there's certain vegetation that grows really well here. And when our garden is yielding like crazy, we're giving a lot of produce away. These are organic tomatoes. That's organic kale. It's organic beans. Organic. We failed at the Brussels sprouts. We've tried that. We didn't do so hot. Yet there are many other vegetables that we'll have. So to offset the gas, and I don't drive as much as I could. Again, I do offset that by riding my bike. I also offset that by creating produce that can be given to people, especially people who don't have fresh produce or don't have a way to get any. And we're lucky in Montana. You can literally grow, if you have access to just the littlest bit of water and a little bit of land, you can grow a tomato plant. You can grow all kinds of stuff out here during the summer. Not going to work so well in the winter. So what we're being shown here is follow the money in your own life. What do you spend your money on? It's an energy. And recognize that that energy that we bring into that third dimension and we buy that widget with it, that creates a balance of power. At least in America, and a lot of other westernized nations also. It creates a huge balance of power. So many of us, when we hear this, we're like, oh God, does this mean I have to have this massive list of stuff? Greenpeace doesn't want me to buy this. And the ACLU the ACLU doesn't weigh in with any of that, but doesn't want me to buy this. No, you figure out what's important to you. If you don't like war machines, figure out, I'm using Halliburton as an example, but figure out, well, what does Halliburton invest in? What funds Halliburton? And do your best not to buy those products. Thank God we live in this massive world, and especially in America, good Lord, we have so many choices for everything to buy here, that if we stop the flow of money, if we stop the flow of energy towards that which we no longer feel serves us, that cuts the head right off the monster. It cuts it right off. I mean, literally, if every single person in the United States did not buy gasoline for 2 days in a row, just nobody went to the pumps at all, the gasoline owner, the person who owns that little shop, they're not really the problem. They're trying to keep candy bars stocked, and they have to, that gas comes and goes from them. Where they see that impact is actually at Shell or at Exxon. We can't get everybody to not buy gas across the nation for 2 days solid because we just can't. Somebody's got to get to work. Somebody's got somewhere to go. I mean, literally. And if you think about it, we continue to feed the monsters. And I'm not saying the oil companies are the monsters. They can be, but gang, we can all be the monsters. This is not the time frame for demonizing and blaming anymore. We must move past that in this feminine time frame. It's really important. And it's okay to observe that which destroys the planet and say, hey, can we back that off and can we do something different? Yet go ahead and have your convictions without condemnation, because that's how we deliver the world forward. I can say to somebody, I do not agree with racism. I do not agree with homophobia. I do not agree with child prostitution. I do not agree with murder. I do not agree with victimization. As such, these are the tenets that I am bringing forward in the world. Empowerment. I am bringing forward equality. I am bringing forward a voice that says we are all loved, because that is my conviction. I don't have to condemn these people. You're a terrible person because you're a this or a that. Well, okay, because that's really going to solve anything. Now I've just, quite frankly, made somebody really mad, and they're not listening to me anyway. And they're not going to be converted by me anyway, because according to the angel who walks with the world, all have their place. We are all serving in a giant experiment in consciousness down here. So if we can get out of the idea of one way has to rule the whole world, and we can come into the understanding that the one way being a little bit of grace for everybody's space they're in, and taking away the need for any one person to rule it the way they want to, and understanding that if we all had food, if we all had water, if we all had somewhere to sleep, if we all had a shelter over our bodies when it was storming, if we all had clothing to keep us warm or cool, if we all had shoes on when we wanted them on so our feet would not be cut up, if we all never worried about being taken care of, a lot of what we war over would be gone. Yet we don't believe that that's possible. Therefore, the angel who walks with the earth said earlier on that we fall into these traps of the mind of what's possible and not, even though we're so awed by the PayPal exchange. Everything is possible. Hear this. This world we are moving into, it is about co-creating a place to be and live. And if you don't want the sociopathic 20th century business system to run the United States anymore? Be mindful of where you place your energy. Be mindful of the money, because that money is an energy, and you buying that product that funds this terrible thing, let's just say, for example, buying the product is putting the energy towards the action that you are not fond of, which is why I try to offset driving my car with riding my bike, because I'm not in a place to say, I'm going to just go back to horses. I can't have a horse in town. They won't let me. No, they'll let me have 4 chickens in the city limits in Billings, Montana. No pigs, and certainly not a horse. Not where I'm zoned. No. So when we look at the energies, here comes the angel who walks with the path. Okay, this is bullet point angel again. This angel says, "For upon all of you is the charge of choice. This is the master and the savior." Think about that. Upon all of us is choice, and this is the master and the savior. In other words, what we choose can kick our butts, or what we choose can save us. And these angels are really working hard, especially right now in this time frame, but especially during this week. They are working so hard to get us to understand that we are the miracle that we have been waiting for, that where we put our energy, results flow. And if that energy is spending money in an area that is icky, well, guess what? We're going to keep fueling the icky. It's the way it goes, okay? And obviously, I am not a believer in demonizing, and I am not a believer in railing against things like oil companies and whatnot. I wish I could say that I was that righteous. The bottom line is, I wish our oil companies would be a heck of a lot more responsible and respectful of our environment, as I wish our mining companies would be. And during this time frame, where the energy of money is ruling everything, they perceive that money as rule. They perceive that money as power. And why wouldn't they? We keep pumping it to them in the form of energy every time we go to the gas station. Now, I'm not trying to make you feel freaky about owning a car. Like I said, I have a car. I am trying to illustrate through a very, very obvious portal where our energy goes. So we can't continue to feed a monster. And again, I'm not saying it's simply the oil companies. I'm saying in general, we cannot continue to feed a monster with energy, which is money. Okay? That's one form of energy. And the other form of energy is execution. We choose to spend that money there. That is 2 forms of putting energy in that direction. We are just filling that monster's belly and then saying, who's going to save us? Who's going to change the world? What do? I feel helpless as I put more gas in my tank. And God knows I'm buying some tank top from somewhere that's owned by some company that's funding some war company. I mean, honest to God, I know it sounds a little paranoid, but think about it. How about if we did this instead? What if we cut down our gasoline usage, say, by half? And some people can't because they've got long commuting jobs. Well, say to offset that, we volunteer. We volunteer to help women get on their feet and teach them a skill that they didn't have before. So in the web of all things, in the web that pulls, we may be pulling over here where the planet may be getting fracked and some negative things are happening. A lot of negative things are happening due to the oil industry. That's getting pulled on, yet we're also allowing a fantastic pull for love. We are creating the other pull as we volunteer our time. Now, it's not some penance for driving a car. It's saying that I'm putting the energy into the money, into the tank in my vehicle, and then I'm complaining that they're fracking. Now, can the oil companies get oil without fracking? Yes, but not as much as we use. And it's really creepy because most of this oil is in little teeny fissures in the rock, and they blow chemicals into that and blow polymer beads and make these micro fractures and bigger fractures and rinse all the oil out with a chemical and suck it all back out. And I mean, the poor earth, right? But we're using that oil up. We're using that gasoline. It's not just sitting around, gang. We're using all that. So how about instead, or in addition, beginning to take action by putting volunteer time in, growing vegetables for other people, riding your bike a little more, buying a bike for somebody who doesn't have one. I mean, there's a million actions, and I'm just obviously using mobility issues as an example. Yet this angel who comes forward says, all healing is upon you. All healing is within you, which means that it's not going to be one person that pulls this all together. All healing is upon you, is within you. They're talking about the collective species of humanity. We all can come forward, and the majority of us, and I can tell you this with full 1,000% confidence because I get an opportunity to feel into everybody in the world. I don't recommend it as a Saturday night activity, but I do occasionally. Takes me out for a couple of days, but I'll do it because I want to feel what the collective consciousness is creating out there. And a majority, the vast, 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 vast majority of this entire planet is full of love. It's full of love. We're hearing about the weirdos on the news. We're hearing, we talk about the 1% with all the money and the 1%. And yeah, it's gotten really imbalanced. And poor America was specifically over here. We're in a bad space, and we've let it get bad by thinking somebody else was going to handle it while they kind of went in and structured it in a way where all the money is on one side. Yet, where do you think they're getting the money from? From us. So if we just direct the money in different ways, if we invest in green energy companies instead of oil companies, if we invest in new technologies instead of the same old that gets cracked out, and again, nothing against China, those folks have to eat and work too, yet, hey, if we're not using the same old stuff that's manufactured out of China or wherever else, and we invest in, how about this? How about finding those companies that build bricks out of old recycled water bottles, those bricks that can slide over the top of rebar. They have an amazing ability to insulate. How about if you're a builder and you're listening out there, how about you use some of those recycled materials to build with? And how about you market those greenhouses as repurposing all of this plastic that's going into the oceans? We can do something about the world by redirecting the choice, the energy of the choice that causes us to put the energy behind the money. That's two forms of energy going into something, going and feeding the monster. We are going to change the world. I've been saying this till I'm blue in the face since 2016. We, the people of the United States, of the United Kingdom, of you name a country, of Sweden, of God bless you, Australia, of killer Canada, of Mexico, we the people of every country on this planet will save it by directing our energies to that which is loving. Because love, as you put it out into the ethers, is what goes straight towards the quantum field when non-love is pulled upon. Okay? So if we flood the ethers with love, then loving solutions come forward. It starts with where we spend our money, though, in a practical matter. And it starts where we put our thoughts. The angel who walks with the world just came forward again and said, "For this, the deliverance you seek resides within the self." Oh, God. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Pretty much we're waiting for the white knight to come swoop us in, or a new president, or a new world leader, or, I don't know, a new head of the NBA. Whoever we look at as a leader, we're waiting for this one person to come in. And the fact of the matter is, it is all of us. We are here to empower each other, to direct our energies in a way on a daily basis that would create the flow in the quantum field that floods it with love, because that stops the pendulum from swinging. We don't need to swing from side to side. It's not the nature of our country. We can say it is because that's the way that the political franchises have. They're banking on the fact, literally banking. Hundreds of thousands of millions upon millions of dollars. They are literally banking upon the fact that you will rally up and make it all about one side or another. And I'm certainly not saying don't support a candidate. Heck, I'm very transparent about this. My favorite senator in Montana is Senator Jon Tester. He has a flat top. He's the Democratic senator. He actually was a music teacher, and he is a farmer, a dirt farmer, and he's farmed the same land that his family has had for 4 generations out in eastern Montana. The guy's just cool, and he's the state senator. He's missing a bunch of fingers off of one of his hands because it got caught in a combine. I mean, honest to God, he's as real deal as you get. And I gave him $10. I said, here you go, Senator Tester, towards your campaign. You know, I throw him a few bits of money every once in a while. So I'm not saying that you can't support whatever candidate that you believe in. Yet when we look at that, do I think Jon Tester is going to save the world? Hell no. Hell no. Jon Tester would probably kick me right in the butt with his cowboy boot if he even heard me say that. No, I don't think he's going to save the world. I don't think he's going to save the country. I think he is going to take the energy that I fueled to him, which is support and love, and he is going to transform that into something that will mirror support and love. Now, ask someone in my state who's a big, heavy-duty conservative person if they like Jon Tester. They're not going to give you the same answer because we are all looking through different lenses. Yet place the energy where you wish to place it. Place your choice where you wish to place it. And understand that during this time frame, this is about we, the people, coming forward with our gifts to literally change the world. The first place it starts is the money. The second place it starts is, the first place it starts is our actions. The second place is the money. The money follows the actions. And until we get this through our brains, through our heads, that we are literally fueling the monster that we're railing against, we're going to keep experiencing the same problem because what the universe is trying to show us is that we are manifesting this whole thing. We are manifesting this whole thing. The good, the bad, the awful, the freaky companies, the oligarchies. We are manifesting all of it. Oh, the 1%. Oh, they're going to take us over. Ooh, 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 fear, fear, fear. Where do you think they get their money? Where do you think they get it? Hello, most of it's virtual. Most of it's in interest. Most of it doesn't even exist. It's all bank interest. Gang, do you see how silly this whole thing is? And yes, we can stand up for all kinds of things. Yet again, here comes this message for you. Have your convictions without condemnation. Bring forward plans of action. Plans of action, and execute those plans of action rather than simply criticizing everything you don't like. I mean, sure, we can talk about it. You know, I can talk about my perspective. I do not care for victimization. Like I said, racism, homophobia, I don't get any of it. However, there are many people who don't get my life. And the minute we remove trying to convert everybody to our way of seeing things, we remove half the problem. The other half of the problem is how do I direct my energies in a way that will bring about the world that I want to see? And that does involve money. Oh, it does. It does. At least it does in the United States because we have created the oligarchy that's running the country right now. We've created it. And fear sells. So don't be marketed to through fear. I know I've talked about that on the podcast before. Yet this angel who walks with the world just came in and said, for that which is your teacher is your chosen one to walk with. Think about that. That which is your teacher is your chosen one to walk with. What does that mean? It means that if I choose fear, that's the teacher I've chosen, so I'm going to be in a personal hell. If I choose love, that's the teacher I've chosen, so I'm in this warm and puffy place. Both are valid. Both are lessons. But where do I put my energy? Where do I put my energy? That is your angelic message for this week. That's what they wanted to talk about because we are in a pivotal place where we are being asked to place our energy forward to really be able to evolve our planet together. So, have your convictions without condemnation. Bring forward your ability to move forward. And do your best to stay out of that fear trap of the brain. It's not as bad as it looks, gang. Trust me. When I interface with all 8 billion of us, there's I would, honest to God, I would say 75% of us, 80% of us want the same beautiful, loving things. There's about 20 of them that are, 20% of people are really kind of out there. They might be ill. They might have been so abused. They're broken. Maybe they just came in as dark souls. I don't know. Maybe they're the biggest buzzkill on the planet. Who knows? But it's only about 20% of them that push this fear profile. 20% of the whole world. Not 80, 20. So think about that. Alrighty, gang. I am going to wrap us up here. Thank you for hanging through this. This has been a bit of a hefty broadcast today. Yet, you know what always is when you're dealing with angels? Everybody expects them to be fluffy and puffy and lovely, and they're just, they're angels. They are what they are. And I want to invite everybody to tune in next week because I'm actually going to have my wife on the show. She and I are going to do the show together, and we are going to be talking about the integration of mind, body, spirit. My wife, Rebecca Douglas, is a fitness professional, and she's a lot of things. She's an award-winning photographer and a genuinely cool human being. However, as a fitness professional and as a huge empath herself, we're going to be talking about how important it is to keep the body in a place where we can actually manage our energies with it. And she's got some great tips, gang, that I have no clue about. So I'm actually going to bring her on and we're going to talk about what she deals with as a fitness professional, trying to move people past the idea that we are just physical beings, because there's so much more to that. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week, is the integration of mind, body, spirit. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, if you haven't gone online and gotten your tickets for my Ascension tour, you got to get that going. We're selling out. This is great. We haven't sold out yet of any locations, but we're selling tickets. Get on there starting on September 8th out in Portland. Of course, going to Boulder, Colorado, going out to Minnesota. We've got so many incredible stops. So please head to ascensiontour.com and check it out, because I get to channel some incredible angelic messages for the town that you're going to be in. And 20 to 25 of you guys are going to get picked randomly for live readings during the forum, during the actual event itself. We're going to be working on healing. We're going to be working on meditation. We're going to be working on sending incredible energies. You talk about changing the quantum field. We're going to be working on sending energies of healing out to the planet. All of this in this great event. So go to ascensiontour.com. I hope to see you out there. Thank you for hanging in with me this week. I can't wait to have Rebecca on. Next week, we're going to talk about mind, body, spirit. And until then, place your choices and your energies towards the world that you feel in your heart is true. And that world will appear on the outside of your hands. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.